Alright, I am back with another video, and this one is a build request. I was asked to make a Draconian warrior. Now, in my mind, that is somewhat like a fighter, or basically a Gish type character that uses both Draconic magic and martial prowess, kind of like the fang, claw, and breath of a dragon. The person who requested it also requested that I be a dragonborn for this build, so that is what I've decided to go with, just to stay on the dragon theme. But let's not delay too long, let's get straight into the build. So, when you think about someone who uses both swordplay and sorcery, you think of a hexblade or a blade singer, but neither of those are in the game, so we're going Paladin. Sorry for my poor joke. I think a character like this, if you were kind of playing like maybe like a religious dragonborn, could very easily be like a follower of Bahamut, or if you wanted to play an evil route, like a follower of Tiamat. I've kind of gone for a more like heroic looking build here with the gold dragon, but it's up to you. So let's have a look at like what we can do with Paladin. So, I mean, you get to pick your oath as a Paladin, pick whatever you like. It's not really going to affect the build overall. You can go with any of these three, or you can go to be an Oathbreaker if you want to play a bit more of an evil kind of Draconic warrior. It's entirely up to you, but you definitely want to go with Paladin to start. It's going to give you all your armor and weapon proficiencies. It's going to give you, you know, useful baseline stats. Definitely something you want to go with. As for your stats, I'm definitely going to recommend that you go with... you kind of want to give yourself a total of 16 in strength. Probably... this build's mostly going to be wearing heavy armor, so dexterity isn't a huge issue. And since this is going to be a little bit multi-ability score dependent, I would keep it around 10, maybe bump it up to 12. I'm going to personally keep it at 10, because I find that when you're wearing heavy armor, 10 is okay. Yes, you're going to be going a little bit less, you're going to be going a bit slower in the initiative order, but I find that, again, going for a heavy armor build, which this is, 10 dex is perfectly fine. You also want to have your constitution up as high as it will go, and your charisma as high as it will go. So a stat spread of 16, 16, 15, 10 works out pretty well here. So let's move on from level 1. At Paladin level 2, we're going to be getting our Divine Smites, which is the big boy feature, but we're also going to be getting our fighting style. We're going to be going with Great Weapon Fighting here. As you can see, I am using a two-handed weapon, a polearm, so you're definitely going to want to be getting the Great Weapon Fighting style here just to make that even more potent. We're also going to get some spells. I feel like for the flavour of it, Searing Smite is a really fun smell here. Fun spell, because you're going to be getting to add fire damage to your melee attacks, pretty cool. Same with Thunderous Smite, being able to get like a Thunderous Dragon Roar on your melee attacks is really fun. So I feel like this is quite a nice spell to have. You can also go for Wrathful Smite if you want. I'm just going to put it here because I like it. The last two can be whatever you like. I've been told Heroism is quite good, but I personally don't really like picking it. Bless is obviously really good, I'll probably take that. And in the early days, if you haven't got much else to concentrate on, Shield of Faith can be good, although all of these are concentration. But if you just go with Shield of Faith and go Smite, 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 all day, all night, you'll be fine. So I'm going to go with that here. Next up at Paladin level 3, you're going to be getting your subclass features, whatever they may be. Again, nothing is too specific to the build. I always go with Oath of Vengeance because this is just my personal favourite, but really, it can be whatever you like. It doesn't really matter. No new spells at this level, but you do get to add an extra one, so we'll just keep going. Right, Paladin level 4, you're going to be getting your first feat. Now, you can kind of go whatever you like here. I wouldn't recommend, like, if you go for an ability score improvement, you can go with Strength if you want to. However, I recommend when you get to Act 2, you actually get the Potion of Everlasting Strength to buff your Strength up by 2 to get it to a nice solid 18, which was perfectly fine for basically the rest of this build. I don't think you really need to take it beyond that with this build. So you can buff Charisma here. Charisma is going to be a really important stat. Or, if you want to get that little bit of extra oomph on your weapon attacks, you can actually go with Great Weapon Master, since we're using a two-handed weapon here. But I personally, with what this build goes for, I kind of prefer just going for that flat buff to Charisma. I just think it's going to be better in the long run, so my personal opinion is take a Charisma buff here, but if you wanted to go Great Weapon Master or even Polearm Master, since we're using a Polearm, although I don't think Polearm Master in this game is as good as its 5e counterpart, but that's just my opinion. Choose whatever you like. I'm just going to stick with the simple option and go with a +2 to our Charisma. Next up at Paladin level 5, we're going to be getting extra attack, and also because we chose the Oath of Vengeance, we also get a couple of nice spells here, being Hold Person and Misty Step, but again, not essential to the build. I'm just going to kind of redo all my spells here and kind of just go over the options, so you get a few cool new options. Obviously, we're going to get Branding Smite, in addition to our other smites, so you can kind of do ranged weapon smites. You could go for Magic Weapon here, but I personally don't like it. Aid, however, is an amazing spell, and especially considering we're going to be getting very high spell slots on this build, Aid is definitely worth having around as just an all-around good team-wide buff. You can kind of keep some of the basic level 1 stuff in your kit as well, just anything that could be useful in niche situations, but play around with this and pick your favourites. But definitely I think want to grab Branding Smite and Aid at the very least. Next up, we're going to be going into our first multi-class, and of course, we're going Sorcerer. We are building the Sorcerer today. I was going to say Sorlock, but that's not right. We're building a Sorcerer, which is one of the most powerful builds you can make in this game. So it's nice to power build for a change, just a little bit. However, most Sorcerer builds would go Paladin 6, Sorcerer 6, so why am I not going for Paladin 6 here? There's a little tech I want to kind of go over. I think I used it in one of my previous builds, or at least suggested it as an option for a previous build, but I'm actually going to make it a big part of this build here. But we're going to start off with a level of Sorcerer, which means we're going to be getting some cantrips. Since I'm going with a gold dragonborn here, I'm going to focus on the fire aspect, so we're going to go take Firebolt. But you can take whatever you like. Like I say, I like Friends, as always. It's a really powerful spell. You could go with Poison Spray or Acid Splash if you want some close range options. You can take Mage Hand. It's going to be a pick your favourite situation, but definitely want to get the main kind of cantrip for the damage type you're going to be speccing into with the Dragonborn or kind of thing that you choose. The Dragonborn type, the Dragon type, your Dragon typing. Charizard could never. I would definitely recommend taking Chromatic Orb as one of your first level spells here. Definitely a really cool spell to have on a dragon build because it can do any type of element of damage. But if you wanted to focus on just your single element, you could pick a spell that goes with that. If you're a fire dragonborn, you could go Burning Hands. If you're like there is a dragon that does thunder damage, but I can't remember which one. But you can go with that one. Magic Missile if you'd rather have something kind of better. If you wanted to go for lightning damage, you could go for Chromatic Orb, not Witch Bolt. Ice Knife for an Ice Dragon. Tons of different options here, pick your favourites. But I think I'm just going to go with Chromatic Orb for now as kind of a generic kind of pickle. And normally I would suggest obviously go for Shield here, but I think I'm going to show you, with the trick I'm going to show you in a minute, Shield is probably worth getting on a different multi-class that we're going to be getting in just a second. So I'm going to pick Magic Missile as just a good kind of overall spell to have in that last slot. Obviously, for our subclass, we are going Draconic Bloodline, and this is where, for your Dragon Ancestor, you're going to want to pick up kind of like whichever is thematically appropriate. I'm going with a gold Dragonborn here, so you could go with a gold Draconic Ancestry to get Disguise Self, but you could also go with a red Dragonborn to get Burning Hands as well, which is what I'm going to do here, kind of like a good and evil type mix. I'm not sure if this is part of a mod I have or not, by the way, because it kind of looks a bit strange in that menu. But you can get extra Draconic Scales on a Dragonborn. Maybe I'm just going to take it off, but so we'll just ignore that. It might be part of a mod I'm using. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, as for your Draconic Bloodline, you're also going to be getting an Armored Defense if you wanted to go that route, but you're also going to be getting an extra hit point for every level of Sorcerer, so it's very, very nice to have. Now, what I'm going to be showing you next is something you can do kind of at any point in the build, but I'm going to be showing it off here because I feel like taking it kind of a bit earlier is better overall. We're going to be doing another multi-class, and we're going to take a dip into Wizard. Now, the thing with Wizard is, there's a little trick with it. Now, I thought that when you learn from scrolls as a wizard, you had to be a certain wizard level to learn higher level spells. This is not true. You only have to have the spell slot level. So you could be 1 level of wizard, 11 levels of sorcerer, and you could get access to every scroll in the game as a permanent learnable spell. So, if we take a little dip into Wizard here, you can get any scroll spell, which means you're going to have way more options for spells, because like I said before, dragons do a lot of things. They have access to charming spells, flight, teleportation, disguising themselves. Like, dragons can do a lot of things in D&D. And taking this dip into Wizard will allow us to kind of have access to more spells. Now, I know what you're thinking, but we dumped intelligence. What's the point of getting spells this way? Well, with that, you can actually kind of mitigate this with a piece of equipment we're going to be getting in a minute that you can get very, very early on. So, as for your cantrips, take whatever you'd like. You can kind of round out the rest of the elemental triad if you want, which is what I'm going to do here. Getting like Ray of Frost, Shocking Grasp, and Acid Splash here. You get to pick 6 spells here. This is why I said, oh, maybe you should save the shield spell for later, because we can get it here. And since it's not tied to our ability score, it's just a nice little extra to have for free. I would also recommend kind of getting all of our classic utility spell options here that I show off in pretty much every build, just so you have those available. And I also like Grease because it is on theme for like a Black Acid Dragon and would definitely be useful in a lot of situations. And now we get to prepare a spell. And yes, prepare a spell. We dumped intelligence, so at the moment, it's only going to let us prepare 1. Well, by the time this build is finished, we're going to be able to prepare 4 at a time. So let's keep going. With our one little dip into Wizard done, we are going to now be jumping back to Sorcerer, and that is the way we're going to be going for the rest of this build. So, as a second level Sorcerer, we're going to be getting another spell of our choice. Again, this can be whatever you like. I'm going to take Ice Knife here, or Ray of Enfeeblement, but probably Ice Knife because I quite like its utility, just to cover that other element. We're also going to be getting our Meta Magic here, obviously taking Twin Spell. It is one of the most powerful Meta Magic options in the game. And I personally like Distance Spell, but pick whatever you like, because it's going to let you have that extra bit of range on your spells, so you can always get that hit no matter how far away you are. Next up at a Sorcerer level 3, we're going to be getting some extra cool stuff. We're going to be getting another spell, and now we're up to level 2. Sticking with the fire theme, I'm going with this one. We're going to be taking Scorching Ray, but if you wanted to go Thunder, you could take Shadow, or you could go back to your level 1 spells if you want maybe Ray of Fulfillment if you're doing a Poison build. Lots of options here. I'm just going to take Scorching Ray because I feel like it's the most powerful option. And of course, we're going to be taking our final Meta Magic option, which is going to be Quicken Spell. Love it or hate it, it's the best Meta Magic by a long margin. Definitely worth having. Let's keep going. Next up, a Sorcerer level 4, we're going to be getting another feat. Now, you are going to have some options here for this. Let's get straight into it right away. I think an ability score improvement to 20 can be good here. If you feel like you're lacking in some areas, like I say, you could go for a bump to your Constitution. In fact, actually, I know what I'm going to suggest. Resilient Constitution. Bump your Constitution by +1, and also gain proficiency in Constitution saving throws, allowing you to maintain concentration on your spells. I actually think this might be probably one of the better options you're going to have here. Because not taking our first level in Sorcerer, which you could do if you wanted to circumvent this, but you'd be delaying extra attack and Paladin features, this could be a good way to go. So I think Resilient Constitution is quite nice here if you're not starting Sorcerer. Otherwise, probably just go with an ability score improvement, but we'll keep going from here. You get another cantrip at this level. I'm going to take Bone Shield just to kind of round out all of our damaging cantrips, so we have one of each of them because I like to collect them all. Another second level spell here. Again, this is kind of a pick your favorite situation. Nothing too crazy with this one. Thunder Wave can be a nice option. Shadow can be a nice option. Basically, take whatever the hell you like. It does not really matter. I think I'm going to grab Ray of Enfeeblement because I never really take that on any other builds. Next up at Sorcerer level 5, we're going to be getting some more sorcery points, always good, and we're also going to be getting our 3rd level spells, and as much as Fireball or Lightning Bolt or something would be probably more appropriate to start with, we're grabbing Haste because that's going to buff both our spellcasting and our martial features, making us a super powerful Gish. However, we can replace an earlier spell if we like. I'm personally going to replace Ice Knife, and I'm going to take Fireball now, giving me both Haste and Fireball at this level. Pretty darn cool. And finally, we're at Sorcerer level 6, which is our final level. We're going to be getting our subclass features here to be able to add charisma modifiers to our damage of our fire spells in this case. And we get another 3rd level spell. I mean, it's a pick your favourite situation. I'm personally going to take Counterspell because it is that good. But if you wanted to take Lightning Bolt if you're a Lightning Dragonborn or something like that, or Sleet Storm if you're an Ice Dragonborn, lots of options here. Pick your favourites, go with the flow. And that is going to be it for the build. So overall, what you're getting out of this is a lot of interesting spell options, melee options, Divine Smites. You're going to be powerful in pretty much every aspect of combat, especially being a charisma-based character, which means you're also going to be great in dialogue. You're going to be able to do a lot with this build, and it is quite fun. So let's get into the equipment choices, because I think a lot of these are going to work. So with the equipment choices that we have here, this build is mainly going to be coming online kind of around early to mid Act 2. Which means that you're basically going to be playing this as a straight Paladin, before this build truly comes online at around the level kind of 6 area, kind of midway through Act 2. But let's get into the equipment. First up is the Warped Headband of Intellect. This is what is going to let us do our little wizard play. It immediately sets our intelligence score to 17, which means we're going to be getting a +3 to our attack and damage rolls on our wizard spells, meaning that even though we dumped intelligence, our wizard abilities are still going to be worth having. And as I said before, it is going to let us prepare 3 additional spells here, so you can grab any of the utility spells we had before, but also any of the scrolls you pick up can be used here if you learn any additional spells from scrolls, which I don't have. And because we have up to 5th level spell slot, you can learn up to 5th level spells. Unfortunately, that does mean we miss out on the 6th level spells, but there's not that many of them in the game, and while they are powerful, and some of them, like Chain Lightning, would be on theme for a dragon, they're not necessarily, well, necessary. So, you know, but it does give you a ton more options for spells, and it gives you a little extra side quest as you play through the game to gather as many scrolls as you can to expand your arsenal. So I quite like it here, but if you don't care about that wizard dip, just play a Paladin 6, Sorcerer 6, and focus more on, you know, your Draconic abilities. Right. Moving on, our armor is going to be the Armor of Devotion. Now, this is just a really easy to get armor set in Act 2 that you can get at the same time you get this weapon, because they come from the same vendor. Overall, it's just a decent piece of heavy armor with 18 armor class, and the unique ability Eternal Devotion, which is going to allow you to regain 1 Channel Oath charge once per long rest, essentially giving you 2 uses of your Channel Oath. Depending on which persuasion you are, which subclass, this can actually be super useful. In fact, I can showcase it here. Boom, you can see I got my Channel Oath back. So yeah, it's just a quite nice extra ability. Obviously, once you get into Act 3, you can replace this with equipment that is vastly superior, but this is a nice thing you can get around Act 2. Also available right at the start of Act 2 is the Daredevil Gloves. I've been using these quite a lot because actually for Gish type builds, these are really fun, and they're quite easy to get early on in the game, so it's nice for videos like these. You gain a +1 bonus to spell attack rolls, always nice, and your ranged spell attacks are made as melee spell attacks when you are adjacent to a hostile creature. So if you have something like Firebolt, like for example, or Fireball, and you want to cast it right next to you, you can without a penalty. Very useful. Last up, the Evasive Shoes. These are always my go-to for kind of like mid to early game kind of boots. You get these pretty early on in Act 2, and they are just really useful. They give you a +1 armor class. Obviously, replace these later on in the game when you get better equipment, or use something maybe like the Disintegrating Nightwalkers if you want Misty Step, but these are always a solid option. Next up, these may look familiar to you if you saw my Elemental Gish build. I've kind of gone for that same setup. The Necklace of Elemental Augmentation. When one of your cantrips deals acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage, basically the Draconic element spectrum, you add your spellcasting modifier to the damage dealt, so that is going to give your cantrips a huge boost in power, which is something that we like to see as a ranged option. Ring of Elemental Infusion. This is going to, when you use any of those same element cantrips or spells, your next weapon attack is going to deal an extra d4 of damage that is the same as that element you used. A nice little extra buff, not necessary for the full-on build, you can kind of replace this as you go, but it's a nice gimmick that you can get early on in Act 1, I believe. I believe these both come up in Act 1 or at the start of Act 2, something along those lines. And the Strange Conduit Ring when concentrating on a spell, which if you're concentrating on haste, which you should do a lot, this will come up anyway, you're going to get an extra little bit of psychic damage, so just a little bit of extra damage to your weapon attacks all across the board. Speaking of our weapon, The Drake Throat Glaive. If there was a dragon-themed weapon out there that was perfect for this build, it was this. Vicious Dragon Breath. Enemies have disadvantage on saving throws against your Dragonborn Breath weapon. For the record, the Dragonborn Breath weapon is a racial feature you get at the very start, level 1 for picking a Dragonborn, which allows you to do 4d6 of an element of the Dragonborn that you chose in the cone in front of you. You can use it once per short rest, and because of this weapon, enemies have disadvantage on the saving throws against it, which would normally be a dex save. This ability is okay. It's quite powerful in the early game, even if it is only just once per short rest, but compared to the other stuff that other races get, this feature is a bit underwhelming, especially when this will be quickly outclassed by, you know, basic level 1 or 2 spells. So it's not really that powerful. If you don't care about being a Dragonborn, play a different race, but you're still going to be wanting to use this weapon to stay on the Draconic theme. It's a +2 weapon, and again, you get it from a vendor in Act 2, the same vendor where you get this armor, so it's quite easy to get. But you also get Draconic Elemental Weapon. You get to imbue a weapon with elemental power. It receives a +1 bonus to attack rolls and deals an additional 1d4 damage of your choice. Basically, the elemental weapon spell that paladins get at level 9, you get for free on this weapon once per long rest. And you basically just get to give yourself an extra d4 damage, a +1 bonus, and it doesn't require concentration. This is a super fun weapon to use on a build like this, and I think it's very much in theme. It's very much worth using, and again, it's a weapon you can get in Act 2, so fairly easy to grab. But yeah, that is going to be the build. It was nice to build a Sorlock. Not Sorlock, I keep saying that, Sorcerer for once. Basically just a pure Sorcerer. Really, really fun. Again, that Wizard Dip is a bit of a gimmick. If you don't care about getting spell scrolls and all that, you can drop that and just go for Paladin 6, Sorcerer 6, taking whatever you see fit. But I feel like this was a fun way to kind of like expand your spell kit and just get a bunch of different things. And this felt like an overall, this feels like a powerful build to play. Like I say, on its own, it's one of the most powerful builds in the game if you build it right, and this is just one way to build it. And yeah, you just get a ton of cool features, and it comes online in Act 2, so I don't think there's much to complain about here. I think this is just a solid build that is on a nice theme. But yeah, I think that's going to do it from me. I'm still working on the backlog of requests that I've got, and my interests keep jumping around. I've got a few requests that I'm going to get to pretty soon. Again, I'm trying to get back into a consistent upload schedule. But also, with October coming up, and, well, if you know this channel, you kind of know that one of my most edited videos, one of my kind of high production value videos was a Halloween special, so I kind of like getting into the Halloween spirit, so I'm thinking of doing some kind of like Halloween themed builds, and I've got a few ideas in mind that I think are going to be really, really fun. So over the month of October, there's going to be some regular builds and build requests interspersed with some kind of special builds that kind of have a unique way of going about them, not quite like my other videos, but, well, I'm not going to spoil anything as to what exactly those are going to be now, so you'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that is going to do it for me, and I will see you all next time.